In the last season of The Diplomat, Kate and Hal learned about Vice President Grace Penn's role in the attack on the British warship and planned to use that information to get Kate the vice presidency. However, when Hal dropped the news on President Rayburn, he had a heart attack and dropped dead. The Diplomat Season 3 picks up right where we left off, with Kate and everyone else running back inside to make sense of what's happening and to secure Penn. Kate instructs Hal not to say anything to anyone else. Penn enters a secure skiff and discusses the situation with Billy, who's still in D.C. When Penn asks who Rayburn was speaking to when he died, and Kate admits he was talking to Hal. Immediately, Penn takes the defensive against Kate, but there's no time for their trust issues. Next up, the group discusses where to swear Penn in as president. Kate argues for the embassy as the site of her swearing in and wins. She next privately calls Idra to ask about Hal and demand that she ends his debrief with the FBI and keep him from talking. It's decided that Billy will address the nation with the announcement. With that, Penn and the team are off to the embassy. Once they arrive at the embassy, Penn watches Billy's address on Kate's phone while they work to secure the premises. Penn takes over Kate's office, and the two speak alone, and Penn also wants to keep Kate right where she can keep an eye on her. Meanwhile, the team are trying to make the embassy lobby work for a presidential swearing-in, which is no simple task. Hal enters the office and immediately says, "I killed him." Without missing a beat, Kate replies, "No." He admits to telling Rayburn about Penn's role in the attack. The Wylers plead their case that the president needed to know about the attack, and now she does. They have no intention of telling anyone else, and they are no longer her biggest problem. Once again, Kate seems to have convinced Penn. Stuart and Kate take a call from Trowbridge, who insists on being present at Penn's swearing-in ceremony, even though the Americans don't want foreign leaders standing next to Penn. He also agrees to take Margaret Roylin off their hands, which seems to help his case. Kate's furious at Hal for this situation, and also about the fact that she now has to be VP to keep a watch on Penn. Hal plants the seed with Stuart to start the rumor about Kate becoming the vice president, though that's not on anyone's mind but his. Penn agrees to giving Roylin asylum before talking to the president's widow. While everyone talks about how to shut the blinds to give Penn privacy, Hal takes it upon himself to enter the office and just do it. Kate tells Idra to take Hal to offer Roylin asylum. Hal and Idra's meeting with Roylin isn't conclusive, as Roylin seems to think she isn't safe wherever she goes. Kate and Penn continue their best frenemies routine as Kate helps Penn turn one of her spare tops from the bottom drawer of her desk appear as a fancy blouse under her blazer. Penn feels guilt for Rayburn's death, but Kate maintains fairness and insists all Penn did was make a tough call. When everyone gathers for the ceremony, Kate and Dennison embrace a little bit too long, which Hal appears to notice from a distance. Trowbridge brought a Bible for Penn to use and insists on giving it to her right away, agreeing to not be seen in photos. The ceremony goes off without a hitch, even though it was stitched together haphazardly against all odds. Later, Nora asks if Penn tapped a VP after Stuart was in her ear about Kate. She's unconcerned with VP, and everything else melts away when Penn's husband Todd finally arrives. Hal pleads to the Penns that Kate should be the vice president. He's always one to use an opportunity when he can get it. Roylin has been moved to a new location and takes a pill with tea. Then she takes another, and another, and another, and lots more. Kate and Hal are called in to speak with Penn. Before dropping the bombshell, Penn admits that what she's about to say will be a pain point and apologizes. She then reveals that she wants Hal, not Kate, to be her vice president. Even though Hal had been steadily campaigning for Kate to score the vice presidency, Penn shocked them both by asking Hal to be her vice president. Once they're alone back home, Hal insists that he still wants Kate to have the job, and she will one way or another. Kate appears to be sorting through complicated feelings, but she is rational. She tells Hal to accept Penn's offer. She goes for a walk with her security to a bar, and that leads to a flashback to Baghdad in 2010. Kate argues her position to Hal after arguing with a colleague, and Hal accepts her position. There's more to this story, though. While talking to Nora about vetted for the vice presidency, Hal sticks his neck out for Kate to have a position and job beyond second lady. Even after Kate talks him down, Hal continues to broker with Nora. As Kate packs up her office and prepares to leave her post as ambassador, Idra arrives with the news the Royland has died. Idra fears that she will be fired over this death. Because she's leaving London with Hal, Kate can't help Idra through this Royland situation. During his meeting with Billy, Hal continues to push for Kate to have a position in the administration. He gets Billy to agree to a special envoy to Europe, which he reveals to Kate with a paper on a window. When he explains the job terms to Kate, she's ecstatic about what she will get to do, along with Second Lady. Stuart informs Kate that he intends to resign when she leaves, but she has suggested that he becomes an ambassador. She also breaks the news that she will be appointed to special envoy to Europe, and she asks him to come with her. But she doesn't know about funding or the limits of the job, which is enough of a lack of information for Stuart to turn down the job. Kate takes a meeting with Trowbridge and Dennison to share the update on Royland's death, which takes some heat off Idra. Trowbridge blames Kate, but he doesn't want her to be fired over it. In fact, it's unclear what he wants. When it's just her and Dennison, she breaks down in tears and teases what's next for her. In the flashback to 2010, Hal reveals to Kate that he won't be returning to Baghdad, and she demands to go with him. It's quite the change to see Kate fighting for Hal. Back in real time, Kate and Hal take a meeting with Stuart and Nora about the photos of the couple from the plane. However, Stuart proposes Kate staying in London as ambassador. Kate seems to be considering this. After that conversation, Hal kind of crashes out and asks Kate if she wants a divorce. She doesn't want a divorce. She doesn't want to stay in London. She's going with him, and she wants to leave it at that. The flashback returns and shows the moment that Hal proposed to Kate. It wasn't romantic. In the middle of tense situation and very casual. He fabricates an engagement ring out of a twisty tie, and they kiss in the back room of the restaurant they were in. Having seen that pivotal part of their backstory, Kate and Hal's hectic dynamic makes all the more sense. Kate says her goodbyes and leaves with Hal. She looks back at Winfield longingly before they drive off. On the tarmac, Kate gives Stuart a hug, but they only exchange knowing grins. As she watches Hal board the plane, she remains beside Stuart. Without a word, Kate makes her choice to stay in London. Next, we see Kate touching down at the White House to attend a gathering. Back in London, Idra's assured that there were no red flags in the coroner's report of Royland's death, but she still needs to find a way to save her job. The Wylers are also asked to make their marriage and respective jobs work as Billy speaks with them about the language they use to describe their lives. She wants them to express more than logistics and express their love for each other. When they're alone, Kate and Hal argue about keeping up appearances. A private divorce is still on the table. Something suggests that the Wylers won't be about to split as easily as they think they can. Stuart suggests that Idra calls on Kate's connections with the director of the CIA as the second lady to help her out. Kate discovers that Penn appears to be considering dumping Hal and picking Sinar, the governor of Pennsylvania, for VP instead. Kate vows to Billy that she will rein in Hal and make sure that he gets the vice president nomination from Penn. When Hal pushes back against Kate's instruction, she admits that he's on thin ice with Penn. Hal admits to Kate that he's 3 votes away from passing the Law of the Sea Treaty. He's been doing it behind Penn's back in case it doesn't happen, but if it does, Penn will look great. Kate's in on helping Hal with working to get the last 3 votes. Stuart learns that Kate missed the meeting with the head of the CIA, which isn't received well and sets Idra back. Billy dupes Kate and Hal into having dinner together since she's frustrated that their arrangement isn't working. Kate insists that Hal loop in Billy on the treaty to prevent her swaying toward Sinar. Kate doesn't end up sitting down for dinner, and on the way to Rayburn's funeral, she leaves a message for Diane at the CIA. When Hal spots Sinar putting in FaceTime with Penn at the funeral, Kate insists that he steps in to make himself known and seen. Sinar tells Penn they need to look behind Pennsylvania, and even though Kate tries to keep him from opening his mouth, Hal rebuts Sinar's point. Penn appears to be both impressed and worried about Hal stepping in the way that he does. Billy attempts to advocate for Hal to Penn, but she compares him to cilantro. Perhaps she wasn't as impressed with him as we thought. Penn asks to talk with Kate and admits that she doesn't have a VP nominee because Hal can't control himself and Sinar isn't competent. Hal insists to Billy that Penn needs to move on from fulfilling Rayburn's agenda and make her own moves. Penn wonders if Hal can be trained, but Kate tells her that she can't promise Hal won't bark at a political rival in public again. She decides to reveal Hal's progress on the Law of the Sea Treaty as a Hail Mary. Kate's plea appeared to work. Penn will take a chance on Hal as vice president with plans to talk strategy on the way back to D.C. On the way out, Kate and Hal hug and play up their relationship for the nearby photographers. With the nomination secured and Hal sworn in, Kate goes for a run to let off steam with a security team running behind her. Back at Winfield, Stewart warns the team about Kate's demeanor. When she returns, she's in a much better mood than any of them were expecting. Stewart's surprised that Kate isn't stressed or frustrated, but she's taking it all in stride and sees her position as second lady as an upside. No one can turn down a meeting with her. She wants to meet with the person at the Foreign Office who deals with resource extraction for oil from water. Kate has a whole plan of using her position for good and getting as much accomplished as she can. Idra arrives for her meeting, and Stewart proposes Idra running a new project to save her job. Idra isn't impressed with the offers, and she doesn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. While at the Foreign Office, Kate bristles at her security team's proximity, since she still views herself as the ambassador rather than the second lady. Before her meeting, she's swept into a photo op with Trowbridge, which turns into the meeting about drilling licenses. Trowbridge throws a wrench in the discussion and insists on calling Hal. Kate leaves with him and misses the meeting with Dennison. Idra pleads her case about the Royland situation, and she's asked if Trowbridge asked for the CIA to kill Royland. She refutes that claim outright. Trowbridge wants Idra fired, but Dennison doesn't want her to lose her job over this. They're at a crossroads about how to save Idra's job. Kate speaks with Gannon about the drilling licenses, and he agrees with Trowbridge to bring the conversation to the White House. Gannon misunderstands Hal's intentions and fears he will be fired. Needless to say, Kate's annoyed with how often people are using her as a means to contact the vice president. Stewart tells her she should probably just call Hal, and she tried to. But she couldn't even get through to Nora, and Hal hasn't returned her call. She puts on her sparkly black dress to prepare for a cocktail party and connects with Idra, who doesn't think there's a way out. Idra also gets brutally honest with Kate that doing two jobs can only be done poorly. During the cocktail party, Kate speaks to Trowbridge about Idra and asks him to offer her some leniency. It takes a bit of pressing, but he quickly accepts in exchange for Hal agreeing about the North Sea. She quickly tries to get Hal on the phone, but she still can't actually speak with him. Hal steps out of his meeting to call Hal when she sends him their emergency word, Arden. In Dennison's office, she checks out his personal photographs while she waits for Hal's call. Hal worried that something horrible happened to Kate since she sent their emergency word, but she only needs him to comply with what she needs to make it through the cocktail party. Taking this call presents Hal with some real problems. After ending her argument with Hal, Kate calls on Dennison for a quick escape without running into Trowbridge. Kate opens up to Dennison about being secretly separated from Hal, but they still have an agreement to be together publicly. She uses the opportunity to also make the slightest move on Dennison. It's awkward at first, but he pulls her into a kiss. Before long, the two are making out in his office, and they both admit they have wanted to have sex for a while. They're interrupted by a call and return to the party. Later that night, Kate calls Hal, but he ignores her call. When she has to ask her secret security detail to unzip her dress, it's clear that she's feeling lonely without Hal. Next, we are now 5 months into the Penn administration. During a party where Kate's being greeted by various guests as both ambassador and second lady, Idris watches satellite footage of vehicles pulling into the residence. Although we haven't been properly introduced to him yet, Kate appears to have built an easy rapport with Callum Ellis. Turns out Idra and Stewart were covertly working to secure Hal's safe arrival to Winfield in order to surprise Kate. When he arrives, he spots her hand placement on Callum and isn't pleased. And when Kate finally sees him, let's just say her reaction is awkward. After her tense exchange and reunion with Hal, Kate takes the microphone to introduce Callum with some light jokes, pretending how she's annoyed by him. She cuts her address short, seemingly to avoid further frustrating Hal. Kate steps aside to call Stewart to confront him about Hal surprising her, and he reveals the intention was for their anniversary. She's a little more than irritated. Hal sniffed out immediately that Kate and Callum have been romantically involved, and she assumed that Hal would be okay with it given their arrangement. Well, he's not. He has a drink with Callum and Kate and pushes for more information. Callum reveals that Moscow has lost contact with a submarine asset, and he has asked for the North Sea's marine sensor data to help find the nuclear-powered submarine. When Hal brings up Kate and Callum's relationship, she makes Callum leave. Kate and Hal finally have it out, and Hal wants Kate to make a statement to the CIA about the manner of her relationship with Callum. He seems to think that it could be a threat to national security and a cost to the American government. They don't reach any resolutions about her affair, and Kate rushes downstairs to the library and breaks down crying on the floor. Idra comes to Stewart and admits that she's drowning with her work and wanted to have a drink with him. He turns her down and suggests that she should speak to Hal about her situation. She first comes to Kate, which gives her the opportunity to be honest with Idra about her marriage with Hal. Kate misunderstood the nature of Idra's conversation with Hal. Speaking of Hal, he's still mad at Kate, and she wants to talk with him before their televised interview. The interview is abruptly paused when Kate's handed a note and they're pulled into a private room. Kate lays out the situation about Idra's walk-in with a man who worked for Lenkov and claims to know that America was behind the carrier attack. Idra's waiting for them in the reading room and reveals the claim checked out. Before they leave to brief Penn, Hal breaks the truth to Idra. Stewart stood up for his drink with Idra, who's busy in the air, strategizing with the vice president. A Russian colonel under Lenkov knows the truth about the HMS Courageous. He has begun speaking to the CIA. If his claims surface, the story will detonate globally, alliances will collapse, and the American cover-up will be exposed. Kate and Hal agree on a single course. President Penn must inform Prime Minister Trowbridge and face the truth together before it escapes their control. The source will remain protected. Grace Penn herself will not be named. Grace initially leans toward full disclosure. She considers admitting she colluded with Margaret Roylan as vice president. She and Billy devise a plan, fly Trowbridge to Amagansett, confess privately, then negotiate a major trade agreement before anything is made public. Kate immediately objects. She knows Trowbridge. He is not diplomatic. He is emotional, impulsive, and hungry for spectacle. He won't negotiate. He will ignite. Penn shares her doubts with Todd. He tells her plainly, if she confesses, she will be impeached. Kate agrees. Trowbridge will not respond with discretion, but with revenge. Soon, Kate realizes Hal has not told Penn the full truth of his position. Billy and Penn believe Hal supports their approach, seeing strategic value in admission. Kate tells Penn directly, Hal is not aligned with this. To him, telling Trowbridge only makes sense because if it all explodes and Penn falls, he becomes president. His silence is not loyalty, it's calculation. Hal defends himself. He tells Penn he is not deceiving her, that Kate and Todd are simply struggling with being excluded from decision-making. Todd, meanwhile, moves through the estate in quiet resentment, drinking steadily, sidelined in his own marriage. Billy confronts Kate. Hal is needed. Kate is not. She should return to London and leave Amagansett. Kate refuses. Denied official voice, she takes another path. She joins Todd in the pool and delivers her plan for him to carry to Grace. Solution is to blame the dead, lay responsibility at the feet of the late President Rayburn. Margaret Roylan is gone. Rayburn is gone. the administration lives. As brutal as it is, blaming Rayburn could contain the fallout. It is survival. But personally, Hal and Kate are at their lowest. She exposed him publicly before the sitting president. Trust between them lies in pieces. With Prime Minister Trowbridge and Foreign Secretary Austin Dennison now at Amagansett, Idra presents the consolidated intelligence. President Penn delivers the revised narrative. Margaret Roylan orchestrated the attack following a private exchange with President Rayburn. It is a strategic fiction, stitched from fragments of truth. A press conference is prepared. Trowbridge will receive credit for the investigation. Margaret's name will carry the guilt. But as they start their press conference, Trowbridge does exactly what Kate predicted. He abandons the script and places full blame on former President Rayburn. The diplomatic fallout reaches a breaking point. In Washington, President Penn's cabinet demands a public apology. Hal refuses. From his perspective, using Rayburn's name was meant to control the narrative, and it still can. Billy disagrees. Penn doesn't need a real apology, just the appearance of one, to calm international outrage. Germany is furious. Global markets are shaking, and yet it won't be Penn giving the speech. It will be Kate. In London, protests swell outside the ambassador's residence. Kate is instructed to remain inside for safety. Callum gains entry with urgent news. The missing Russian submarine has been located, just off the British coast. But the British refuse American assistance. They intend to manage it alone, despite lacking the technology. Callum adds another warning. Trowbridge is personally fixated on Kate. She should use it. Kate initially agrees with Hal. A U.S. apology would project weakness. But Callum offers a different reading. Trowbridge doesn't respond to dominance. He responds to respect. A direct phone call, a gesture of humility, may prevent further escalation. Then Kate learns the pivotal detail. Trowbridge has refused all U.S. diplomatic meetings and added a discreet appointment with a Chinese official. He's preparing to go to China for help with the submarine. Everything changes. Kate reverses course. Penn must apologize fully, directly, and without condition. Billy objects. She believes Trowbridge is bluffing. But then Callum reveals the final devastating truth. The submarine carries the Poseidon torpedo, a salted bomb engineered for catastrophic radioactive fallout. They once believed it was never operational. They were wrong. Kate calls Hal and Billy. For the first time, all three agree. Penn cannot signal regret. She must prostrate herself. This is no longer diplomacy. It is the prevention of a global disaster. Afterward, Hal quietly asks Kate how long Callum has known about Poseidon. She discovers the truth. He had known for 2 months and chose silence. He gambled that if the Russians found the submarine before anyone else and tried to move it, it would not detonate. It was a calculated risk that could have ended the world. Kate is shaken. Callum has the same dangerous arrogance she has fought in Hal, the belief in being the exception to the rules of consequence. Later, she apologizes to Callum, not for accusing him, but for carrying the broken pieces of her marriage into whatever they are. She says she wants to try, but she will need time. Next, all principal players gather at Chequers, the British Prime Minister's country estate. President Grace Penn and her husband Todd, Kate, Hal, Prime Minister Trowbridge, his wife, and Foreign Secretary Austin Dennison with his wife, all under one roof, in one last attempt to prevent diplomatic collapse. Hal immediately requests a separate room, pretending to be unwell, a move designed to avoid sharing space with Kate or causing complications with Callum, who is also present. Kate remains distant, but Hal is careful, determined not to display jealousy. In a quiet moment, Todd confronts Grace. He asks if her connection with Hal is more than professional. She denies it. He doesn't believe her. He has seen the way she reacts to him, the laughter, the ease. Grace, meanwhile, refuses to accept responsibility for Rayburn's actions, but insists she will not abandon cooperation with the UK. In private, she tells Trowbridge the truth. The Poseidon torpedo is aboard the missing Russian submarine. She offers U.S. equipment to retrieve it safely. Trowbridge rejects her outright. He refuses to believe Poseidon is real. He refuses American help. Kate urges Callum to come clean to his prime minister. He refuses, admitting it would end his career. That evening, the atmosphere fractures further. Tensions spike when Todd corrects Trowbridge for confusing Heisenberg with Schrodinger's cat, irritating both the Prime Minister and President Penn. Strangely, peace returns only when the conversation turns to Todd's background in physics and biology, momentarily humanizing him. Later, Callum changes his stance. He tells Kate he will speak to Trowbridge after all. Hal opposes it vehemently. Callum is the last living channel between the US, the UK, and Russia. Losing him would sever everything. He pushes Kate. This was your idea. Why can't you just be happy? He claims he is trying to protect both her relationship and Callum's position at once. Kate and Hal present an alternative, send a US submarine stationed in Germany to capture photographic proof. If Poseidon is aboard, the hull will show modifications. Grace Penn resists, but later, alone with Hal, she shifts course. A plan forms, one we won't fully understand until it is far too late. Elsewhere, Stuart and Idra reunite. Stuart, ready to resign and feeling betrayed by Rayburn's attack on an ally, falters. Idra warns him, if he seeks legal protection, his career anywhere is over. She tells him she wants him to stay. They kiss and sleep together. The next day, Trowbridge is shown the images. Penn claims they were taken by a drone. Kate is confused. She expected submarine confirmation, not drone surveillance, but the moment slips by. Penn insists trust has been broken, but the U.S. still wants to help. Trowbridge refuses. He accuses America of planning to seize Poseidon. She responds that he is preparing to hand it to China. Hal signals Kate, use the Runit Dome argument, the Marshall Islands burial precedent. He knows Trowbridge's respect for her. If no nation can be trusted with this weapon, not the US, not Russia, not China, then it must be entombed forever beneath the sea. Buried and forgotten, no one should possess it. That night, Kate goes to Hal. She cries. She asks him to take her back. She apologizes and asks for forgiveness. Hal answers quietly, I never went anywhere. They kiss and reconcile. Before leaving Chequers, Callum pulls Kate aside. The Russians have found the submarine. Radiation is dropping. Poseidon is gone. Todd reveals what Grace told him. There is no intimacy, only the quiet plotting of world domination. In that instant, Kate understands. The Russians didn't take Poseidon. She pieces it together, the Ohio-class submarine drone capable of carrying Poseidon. Hal tries to stop her. Kate is furious. Hal used her credibility, to sell a lie to Trowbridge. When Britain discovers it, they will see it as an act of war. Russia will blame Britain and strike. Hal orders her to tell no one. He goes to Penn. Kate knows. Grace is shaken, but the cameras are waiting. It's time for the final photo session. They need to show unity, diplomacy, and composure. Todd turns to Kate. Nothing to worry about, right? The camera lingers on Hal and Penn, bent heads whispering, already deciding what happens next.